welcome. You're listening to our discussion right here on the YouTube channel Vintage Noise. This is where we take a closer look at some truly iconic vehicles.
And today, we're looking at a real legend, a titan, you might say, from the pre-war era.
We are indeed. We're focusing on the Mercedes-Benz 540K, specifically the W29 chassis, built between 1936 and 1943.
It's just a spectacular car. When it debuted, 1936 Paris Motor Show, it wasn't just another car reveal. It was, well, it was a statement.
A huge statement. It really redefined luxury grand touring, didn't it?
Absolutely. And performance, too.
Yeah, performance is key here. I mean, you look at it, it was one of the biggest cars on the road back then.
Yeah.
Really imposing.
Huge, yeah.
But it could hit speeds around 170 kilometers per hour. That's what, 110 miles per hour?
Roughly, yes. Which put it right up there with the fastest road cars available anywhere at the time. An incredible combination.
So let's unpack how Mercedes actually pulled that off, that mix of sheer size and, well, speed.
Okay, well, it really starts under the hood with the engine. The 540K was an evolution, really, of the 500K that came before it.
Which was already a pretty impressive machine.
Oh, absolutely. So they took that supercharged straight-eight engine and essentially bored it out slightly to 5,401 cubic centimeters.
Right, 5.4 liters, hence the name 540K.
Exactly. Simple naming logic there.
But the engine had this kind of hidden feature, didn't it? That's what really makes it legendary.
Yes, the dual power setup. So normally, just cruising around, the engine was naturally aspirated, made about 115 horsepower.
Which, you know, for the 1930s, 115 horsepower in a luxury car was already quite a lot.
Very respectable, yeah. But the real party trick was the supercharger. Use a Roots-type supercharger.
But it wasn't running all the time, was it?
No, that's the ingenious part. It was an on-demand system.
On demand. So did the driver have a button or something? A lever?
No, nothing like that. It was purely mechanical, linked to the accelerator pedal. You had to push the pedal all the way down, right to the floorboard.
Ah, okay, like a kick-down switch you get on modern automatics.
Sort of, yeah, the mechanical version. There was a linkage right at the end of the pedal's travel. When you hit that point, bang, the supercharger engaged instantly.
Wow. So you go from this smooth, powerful cruiser
to an absolute rocket. The power jumped instantly from 115 horsepower to 180.
That must have been quite a sensation.
Yeah.
And you'd hear it too, right? That distinctive whine.
Oh, yes. That high-pitched scream is unmistakable. It's partly why they got that nickname, White Elephants. That sound, combined with the power.
Incredible. Yeah. But you can't just drop that kind of power, especially that sudden surge, into any old chassis. The rest of the car had to match up.
Precisely. And this is where Mercedes' racing experience, particularly with the Silver Arrows, really paid off for their road cars.
How so?
Well, instead of a typical heavy ladder frame, which was common for big luxury cars then, they used an oval section tubular chassis.
Tubular? Like the race cars. That seems quite advanced for such a large road car.
It was. Very advanced. Using tubes instead of solid beams made the chassis significantly lighter but still incredibly strong. Better strength-to-weight ratio.
Which is exactly what you need to handle that sudden kick from 180 horsepower without the car feeling like it's twisting itself into a knot.
Exactly. It improved the handling dynamics enormously. And the suspension was equally cutting edge for the time.
Right. It had independent suspension, didn't it?
It did. All independent. Coil springs on all four corners. Up front, they used parallel wishbones, and in the rear, the famous Mercedes swing axles.
Independent suspension on a car this big and powerful back then, that was a big deal. Most competitors were still using solid axles.
A huge deal. It meant much better ride comfort because each wheel could react to bumps individually, but also much better stability, especially at the high speeds this car was capable of. It made it a true grand tourer.
So it could handle the speed and stop.
Ah, yes, stopping. They carried over the four-wheel vacuum-assisted hydraulic drum brakes from the 500K. Pretty serious stopping power for the era.
Okay, so we've got this incredible technical package, amazing engine, advanced chassis, sophisticated suspension. But that was really only half the story for the people buying these cars, wasn't it?
Absolutely. For the clientele back then, the engineering was almost expected. The real expression of wealth and status came from the bodywork, the style.
Which leads us into just how bespoke these cars could be. They weren't just offering one or two body styles.
Not at all. Mercedes offered a quite bewildering range right from the factory. You had two-seater cabriolets, four-seater cabriolets designated A, B, and C depending on the layout.
Okay.
Then there were four-seater coupes, saloons, sometimes called limousines, open tours, dedicated roadsters.
And that super streamlined one, the Autobahn Courier?
Yes. The fastback Autobahn Courier, incredibly rare, designed for sustained high-speed travel on the new Autobahns, just stunning.
And most of these were built in-house.
The vast majority, yes. At Mercedes' own coachworks, Carrosserie Sindelfingen, it was a massive operation. They apparently employed around 1,500 people just building these high-end custom bodies.
1,500 people. Just for the bodywork on cars like the 540K, that's amazing.
It shows the level of craftsmanship involved. But even so, about 70 chassis were sold bare, sent off to independent coach builders across Europe.
So clients could get something truly unique if the factory options weren't enough.
Exactly. Total personalization was the name of the game at this level.
Now, technically, how did they manage such a variety of styles? From sleek two-seaters to big saloons, did they use different frames?
They did. This is a key detail. Mercedes actually offered 3 distinct chassis lengths for the 540K, all using the same basic engine and suspension principles, but with different wheelbases.
Okay, what were they?
First, you had the short chassis, or KERS.
Yeah.
That was 2,980 millimeters, really quite compact.
And that was used for the sportiest models.
Primarily, yes.
Yeah.
The 2-seater sport roadsters, things like that. It gave them those classic tight proportions.
Right. Then the next size up.
That was the standard chassis, 3,290 millimeters. This was the most common one. The basis for the saloons, the 4-seat cabriolets B and C, kind of the workhorse chassis, if you can call it that.
Okay. And the third one?
The big one, the extended chassis, or the Special, that measured a massive 3,880 millimeters, a very long wheelbase.
And what was that used for? That seems exceptionally long.
It was primarily for special bodies, often more utilitarian ones or ones needing extra space. And, well, we'll get into its more specific uses in a bit.
Okay. And there was another detail about how the engine was positioned on some models.
Yes, particularly on the short chassis Sport Roadster and the Autobahn Courier. To enhance the sporty look and probably help with weight distribution, the engine and the entire passenger compartment were set back quite far, about 185 millimeters further back from the front axle line compared to the standard chassis cars.
Ah, and that's what gives them that incredibly long bonnet look, right? The dramatic proportion.
Precisely. That long hood is a defining visual characteristic of the most sought-after 540Ks today.
So just an incredible combination of engineering muscle and bespoke luxury. But this car existed in a very specific and increasingly difficult time period.
Yes, and that history profoundly impacted its production run. It's a key part of the 540K story.
Production didn't last that long, did it?
No, not really. Chassis production essentially stopped in 1940. The war effort just took priority. All told, only 419 of the W29 chassis 540Ks were ever made.
419, that's incredibly rare when you think about it.
It is, and the planned successor, the 580K, which would have had an even larger 5.8-liter engine, was completely canceled. Never made it into production because of the war.
And this is where that extended Special chassis comes back into the picture under a different designation, right? The W24.
That's correct. The 3,880 millimeter wheelbase chassis, designated W24, was used for some very specific non-standard vehicles.
And these were largely connected to the Nazi regime.
Yes. The historical record shows that 12 6-seater convertible saloons were built on this chassis specifically for high-ranking Nazi officials.
And these weren't standard luxury cars. They had significant modifications.
Right. Because of who they were for, they needed protection. So they were fitted with heavy armor plating, doors, body panels, glass.
That must have added a huge amount of weight. How did the chassis cope? Surely the standard suspension wasn't up to it.
It wasn't. The extra weight of the armor was immense. The elegant swing axle rear suspension just couldn't handle it safely or reliably.
So what did they do?
They had to re-engineer the rear end. They replaced the swing axles with a much more robust Dayton rear suspension system.
Dayton. Why was that better for this application?
A Dayton setup is much better at handling heavy loads while maintaining proper wheel alignment, or camber. It keeps the wheels more upright under load, which is crucial for stability and tire wear with all that extra weight. It also reduces unsprung weight compared to a heavy live axle, which helps with control.
So a major engineering change driven purely by the need to carry armor. But it must have affected performance.
Dramatically. All that weight, even with the powerful engine, meant the top speed dropped significantly, down to around 140 kilometers per hour, about 87 mph car. Still fast for an armored car, maybe, but much slower than a standard 540K.
It's a stark illustration of the times, isn't it? This platform designed for ultimate luxury and speed being adapted into, essentially, a mobile bunker.
It is, and the demand for these armored versions even led to some production continuing after the main chassis lines had supposedly shut down.
Oh, really? After 1940?
Yes. In 1942, there was an incident, the assassination of Reinhard Heydrich. That apparently created an urgent demand for more secure transport for officials.
Right.
So, under a program called Action P, the Reich Chancellery ordered 22-door armored saloons based on the 540K platform. They used existing chassis stock, and another 17 were commissioned in late 1943, completed into 1944.
Wow. So production really trickled on in that specialized form. But perhaps the most famous individual 540K associated with that era wasn't one of the armored saloons, was it?
No, ironically, it was one of the sportiest versions, a 540K Special Roadster built on the short chassis for Hermann Göring, one of only about 32 short chassis Special Roadsters ever made.
The Blue Goose, they called it sometimes.
That's the one, apparently painted in his preferred Luftwaffe blue, complete with family crests. But even this sporty model had defensive upgrades, armor-plated doors, bulletproof glass, a strange mix of high performance and high security.
And its story after the war is pretty wild, too.
Oh, absolutely. It was captured by the U.S. Army's 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles. They actually used it as a command vehicle for a while.
Imagine that, driving around post-war Europe in Göring's captured Special Roadster.
Quite something. It eventually ended up in the U.S., toured around for war bond rallies, and then, believe it or not, it was sold at a government auction in 1956.
For how much? This must be where the story gets painful for car collectors.
Get ready for this. $2,167.
$2,000 for a 540K Special Roadster. Even in 1956, that sounds ridiculously cheap.
It's almost unbelievable today, isn't it? Which brings us neatly to what these cars are worth now.
Yeah, let's talk about the legacy and the value. Back in 1936, what did one of these cost new?
The list price was around 28,000 Reichsmarks. If you try to adjust that for inflation and buying power over nearly 90 years, it's tricky, but you're probably looking at something roughly equivalent to maybe 230,000 US dollars today. Expensive, for sure.
A very expensive car then. But compared to now?
Compared to now, it's a different world entirely. The combination of engineering, beauty, rarity, and that complex history. It's driven values into the stratosphere.
So what's the sort of average price these days if one even comes up for sale?
Well, based on recent auction data, the average sale price for Mercedes-Benz 540K is hovering around $2,647,647, just over $2 million on average.
$2 million average, all right. And the top end, what's the record?
The record is held by, unsurprisingly, a Special Roadster. A 1937 540K Special Roadster sold in August 2022 for $9,905,000.
$9.9 million. Almost $10 million for one car.
Just shy of $10 million. It's staggering.
What makes those Special Roadsters, particularly the short chassis ones, so much more valuable than, say, a cabriolet or a saloon that might still fetch $2 million?
Well, rarity is a huge factor. As we said, only about 32 of those short chassis Special Roadsters were built, so they're incredibly scarce.
Okay, rarity makes sense.
But it's also the aesthetics. That dramatic long hood, the setback cockpit, the flowing lines, the two-seat configuration. It just perfectly embodies that ultimate pre-war sports car ideal. It's considered by many to be one of the most beautiful cars ever made.
It's pure automotive sculpture.
Exactly. And you see the contrast clearly if you look at sales at the lower end of the 540K market. For instance, a 1939 Cabriolet A that had been converted or modified might sell for closer to $500,000, maybe $530,000 or so. Still a lot of money.
Still a huge amount.
Yeah. But that enormous gap between 500K and nearly $10 million really shows how much the market prizes absolute originality, documented history or provenance, and specifically that iconic Special Roadster form.
So wrapping this up, the 540K really stands out for, what, three main reasons?
I think so. First, that incredible engine, the power, the refinement, and that unique on-demand supercharger. Just brilliant engineering.
Second, the sheer level of bespoke luxury and customization available. The range of bodies, the craftsmanship from Sindelfingen and others. Unparalleled for its time.
And third, you just can't separate it from its historical context. Its development, its clientele, its curtailed production, and even its later, more militarized uses. It's all tied up with that critical dramatic period in history.
It was designed, really, as the ultimate statement of freedom, luxury, and open-road touring. Peak grand touring.
Absolutely. But world events twisted its final production phase towards armored vehicles, built out of a sort of political and military necessity. A stark contrast.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. We talk about how the engineers had to adopt that sophisticated Didion rear suspension for the armored W24 chassis, purely to handle the weight of the armor, a technical advancement driven by a very specific and frankly chilling historical need.
So the question is, does the reason behind an engineering solution like that, the historical use case, change how we should view the engineering itself? Can you separate the technical brilliance of the 540K from the complex, sometimes dark, history it occupies?
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Is context inseparable from the machine? Let us know what you think. Thanks for joining us here on Vintage Noise.